Welcome to Algofest 2023. I'm excited. This is the second Algofest. We're running a little bit late, but I'm excited to be here with Staci Warden. She's the CEO of the Algorand Foundation, and W. Sean Ford, the CEO of Algorand Inc. Thanks for joining us, guys.
Was there an Algofest 2022?
There was an Algofest late 2021.
Okay.
Which was the first Algofest,
Okay.
and it was
I was
born
getting
out of
nervous that I missed that I missed one.
It's like on the Olympic schedule. It's like every 2 years you alternate.
It's every 18 months. So we have a very odd schedule to uphold.
Locusts.
It's a great idea. And I just want to say that I love this community generated stuff, right? Like that you guys took this on. Of course, you pulled us both into it, but we didn't drive it. You guys drove it in the community, Algonauts. And I think that's just fantastic. It shows how healthy the community is.
Yeah. You know, it's kind of fun to see where we've all ended up, because when we did this the first time, it was a group of guys that kind of met on StockTwits, moved over to Discord, and thought, okay, well, where's the marketing? I'm sure. Have you ever heard that? Have you ever heard the community ask about where's the marketing, Staci?
Once somebody did mention it in passing to me, hey, you might want to have some marketing. So at the foundation, of course, at Algorand Inc, Kelly Callahan was sort of rocking the whole show. It was a very important presence in the community, of course. But the foundation was, could have upped its game a little on marketing. Yeah, you could say that was a criticism I heard a couple of times.
Yeah, for sure. And by the way, we'll talk about it in a little bit, but you both have new CMOs. There's a new CMO at Inc. I mean, she's relatively new. And obviously, we heard from the new CMO from Algorand Foundation, Jessica Chin, right? Jessica Chin. And she did that Twitter space, and it was really exciting. We'll talk about it. But I guess first, let's just, Sean, how are you doing, by the way? I've been talking to Staci. How's everything going over there?
Great. I'm just here to support you both. Everything's great.
Well, by the way, for everybody that's watching, while we were kind of figuring out everything, we considered going live with Sean full screen playing the guitar. You might see that guitar. It's a Taylor. It's a nice Taylor, by the way.
Nice Taylor.
Okay. All right. They're being nice to me, but the reason we're late is because I was having some major connectivity problems, which has no bearing whatsoever on the quality of the tech of this protocol. I just do want to be clear. It's about me being able to get online, which I was having issues. So sorry. It's all on me.
It was probably Restream anyways. All right. So, okay. So the community sent in a bunch of questions. And since this is a community driven show, I'm definitely going to want to get to those. But before we do that, I just want to ask maybe a general question that I think can maybe start us off nice. Is that, a lot of people in the crypto industry, or, a lot of the retail guys, a lot of people, they entered into this because of decentralization. My first thing was Bitcoin. And, then I kind of wanted to find things better than that, or so I thought. And then I landed on Algorand, really. But something that they say is that if your coin has a CEO, then it's not decentralized, right? So if there's a CEO, then you're not in a decentralized ecosystem. Now, I don't agree with that, but I thought it might be a good way to start with you guys sort of saying, what is the mission of the foundation, and what is the mission of Inc? Kind of break that down for everybody. And then, maybe elucidate a little bit on why that has no bearing on the decentralization of the protocol. Sean, do you want to start?
Sure. I mean, my answer is pretty straightforward. It's that, Algorand Inc. is an open source software company. I mean, we're a tech company. We, build software, we build solutions, in the protocol layer one, and develop, products on top of layer one and enhance the protocol that way as well. So from our perspective, I mean, I think there's two different debates. I mean, one is you obviously need to run a tech company to be able to do that. And there's a number of contributors to the ecosystem that help, not just Inc. But I think that's not necessarily connected to how you think about decentralization in the ecosystem. Decentralization is a broad array of participants, a broad array of people participating in a number of things Staci can talk about, and really sort of embracing the ecosystem. and having the community make decisions around certain actions in that ecosystem. I think decentralization is bigger than just whether there's someone operating in any one organization within the Algorand universe.
Cool. And Staci?
Yeah, I mean, even Linux has its Linus Pauling, right? You need they're making protocol upgrades every week, and it's not that we're going to have a community vote every time Paul Regal wants to, do a protocol upgrade. And, we have to make the trains run on time as well, and the kinds of things that we're doing. We get it though. And, our goal is not to have the foundation around forever, right? But we need to decentralize the role that the foundation has, which now is pretty large in the ecosystem, right? And in the community. And we need to responsibly be on a path of decentralization. And so, last year we rolled out governance and governance decision making. And this year it's a pretty big leap, I would say, from governance to governance 2.0. I mean, I'm not going to say that we had the most absolutely substantively meaningful decisions that we made last year with governance. I think they were important because we had to set up the framework for the thing. But this year, we are turning over a number of important things to the community. Number one, maybe there's a lot of important ones, but the one that I think is pretty critical is the grants program. So the foundation will no longer be responsible for our grant making. We will have a process through the XGovs where the community is spending our grant money. And I think these are the kinds of steps that but of course, we're also running an organization with community members and, DevRel, right? And we're paying those salaries and we're doing these things and we're organizing, decentralization does not mean that we have a California style referendum vote on everything we do, because there'd be a lot of votes, right? So, yeah. And then of course there's the tech decentralization, which, I personally can't speak to, but which we think we are pretty good on and have a path to, be even better on.
Yeah, for sure. There was a great AMA on Reddit with some of the tech guys recently that really kind of talked about the relay nodes and how that's going to be further decentralized. And they also kind of acknowledged the fact that they want to combat some of the perception of our centralization, because I think some people are like, okay, there might be a perception, but it's not the reality. You mentioned it, that the Algorand Foundation isn't going to be around forever. And that is something that I sometimes think is like, without Inc., what happens to Algorand? Does Inc. need to exist forevermore for Algorand to stay cutting edge and to continue? Sean?
Well, look, I think that we'd like Inc. to continue forevermore, but I think that's a little bit separate from the protocol itself is decentralized by design ultimately. And I think over time, there'll be a number of different contributors to the development and sort of extension of capabilities within that ecosystem. I think Inc. intends to be a considerable part of that, given that Silvio is actively involved and it remains actively involved with a number of ideas on how things can evolve. So I think that the goal would be that we would be a part, but that we would see expanded numbers of different participants in the ecosystems contribute to the overall capabilities that we see within Algorand.
Cool. And I guess this is a good time to bring up a community question on the question is, can you touch base on current Algorand reserves, Inc. and Foundation, and the plan to sustain during a potentially long crypto winter? And I guess their follow-up is, are there plans to bring in additional cash flow to continue operations without relying on selling algos? So obviously the concern here is that all operations are inflating, retail buyers or holders and all that. So
Yeah, let me just talk a little bit about our market operations. And as you know, we have, and this was actually a community suggestion, which I should have thought of earlier, but just didn't. And we had a lot of angst because people were following wallets that didn't actually have anything to do with our market operation. So it was a win-win for us to have these in two wallets. They're two different custodians, just to make sure we have some backup there, right? But all of our market operations will be done out of these two wallets from the foundation side. And we have not been in the market so far this year. But we have some very serious requirements. And the number one is that we are not manipulating or influencing the market or the price in any way. So when we are in the market, we are very like, we try to be very consistent. We have parameters around, when we will have so for example, if we have more than 10% volatility in the price on a day, we will stop. It's a rule, right? And we had a floor, which we did lower, as the corn price was going down, because, I pay salaries in fiat, right? And we pay for, Decipher in fiat and that kind of thing. And that's a very, we're very sort of mechanistic about our market operations, because we don't want to be opportunistic in any way or be seen to be opportunistic in any way. And number two is we don't want to influence the price by what we do, right? So we have a limit, and we also have a liquidity limit. And so we are never in the market for more than 1% of total liquidity, right? So we do this specifically so that we won't have an impact on the price. And so we have a budget and a plan and a runway and all of that. And we have a new CFO since September, who has really, raised our game considerably in all of this, and thinking about we have dashboards now and scenario planning and, runway, making sure about the runway. And so that's the first thing. And then the second thing, it's true, right? The foundation is absolutely and never about the price of the algo, but it is true that you can buy less things in fiat with a lower price algo. So we are also cutting costs on the foundation side considerably. And we have had a lot of very hard conversations about the things that we wanted to do and the things that we signed up to do and we were excited to do in a bull market that we are unable to do. And some things are hard, right? And so we are really this bear market, I think, is going to be very good for protocols like Algorand, because the riffraff is just not going to make it. And for us, we want to keep, and as I know, we had this new head of marketing. You don't get a head of marketing at her caliber without giving her resources to spend on marketing, right? So it's not like we're standing still, but survival is also a strategy for us, right? We have just to make sure that we're here at the end of this bull market, and that we're one of the chains that people are turning to, and we can take advantage of opportunities from this bear market as well. So it's like a balancing act of all of these things, right?
Right. And I mean, I imagine that the venture fund that you announced at Decipher will play a part in this as well, right?
Yeah, the venture fund is not, and I've said this a number of times, but I probably can't say it too many times, it's not really new money, and it's not to be competing with our Borderless and Arrington and the funds that we have in the ecosystem that are very important for the ecosystem. But when I came, there were just a lot of different buckets of money that we were giving out or making investments or for this and for that. And it was very unclear to the community how we were spending money. It was unclear what were the grant making criteria. It was unclear why we might invest and why we might not want to. And that just needed to be consolidated with transparent investment criteria, a transparent process about how we go about evaluating protocols for us to a much more. We don't have this done yet, but it's like a huge priority for this year is, what is the life cycle of a company or a protocol, and how can we support them at every stage of that life cycle, from hackathon to accelerator to success in the ecosystem once they're built, giving that bear hug, that non-monetary bear hug. But Algorand Ventures is a way of just cleaning up and making more transparent and making more understandable to everybody what our investment process is.
Right. Okay, great. And then Sean, kind of the same question to you about Inc. and Algorand reserves. I mean, you're, like you said, technically a tech company, so I'm sure you go into relationships, there's revenue and stuff like that as well. But can you speak to that a little bit about how, what the plans are to kind of survive the crypto winter, additional cash flow, selling algos and stuff like that to pay?
Yeah, I think that, a couple things. One is that I think every layer one tech company is looking at, diversifying revenue streams. I mean, we're not going to start a phone, for example, like some other protocols decided to do. That seems like an interesting bet. But
we're
I
going
do think that
to start a bike company at the foundation.
Nice.
Oh, she stole my joke. She stole my joke, everybody. I knew I knew it. Well, we'll talk about that later. You opened the door, Staci.
That's a questionable comment, but I would say that so we've been running the company as obviously we've got a number of different technology or products that we're building that we expect to be able to move to market and monetize. We've got appropriate sort of measures in place along the lines of what Staci described in terms of understanding our financial position, making sure that we're here for the long term. We fully expect to be here for the long term. We've made decisions to make sure that our cost structure is aligned with what we see happening in the market today. And I think one of the nice things about Algorand, I'm just going to assert this and then people can say what they want, is that, we were criticized quite a lot early about not jumping in with the pump and dump and, let's just go moon crowd. And there was a lot of criticism that we avoided that speculative behavior. And I think pretty rigorously avoided it. But we had a lot of adults in the room that had been through the sort of internet bubble and had seen other things happen in the past. So we built this as a business, and we built it. And I've said this a million times, focuses long-term, enduring value. And I think Staci's comment is right. We're excited about the opportunities that this market actually presents for projects that are being run appropriately. I think Staci's done fantastic job bringing in a team. I mean, I always say this, whether she's with me or not, like a great job bringing in some real professionals. And I think, I feel good about where we're headed and where we are.
Yeah. I met some of those real professionals at Decipher, and it was really exciting. And, I've spoken to John Woods on the show, and, I met Deidre. There's such an impressive array of people that are involved in this. And I'm definitely excited about it. Okay. So we kind of talked about that. Let's just switch gears. I want to talk about marketing in a second, but why don't we, it's the beginning. It's still I guess it's almost the end of January, but I think we can still talk about, okay. So they're sending in questions, but we can still talk about it. When you look back at 2022, what are some of the most exciting things that you saw that happened in 2022 for the future of Algorand? And maybe if you have any regrets about 2022, you can share those as well.
Me to go first, Staci?
Yeah, let's go.
Staci, what you have a comment? You go ahead.
What am I excited about for 2023?
No, when you look back at 2022, what are some of the more exciting things that you saw happen? And if you have any, regrets looking back as well, you can share those as well.
Oh my God. Okay. Well, everybody get comfortable because this is going to be kind of a long answer. I mean, I was drinking out of the fire hose basically for the entirety of 2022. I mean, Also the ecosystem, when I started, it had 2 DeFi protocols. I mean, it was growing exponentially just as I was thinking, okay, I think I have a grip on this thing. It was like getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And this is why, my New Year's resolution this year is to start meeting protocol. I really thought, I'll meet all the important protocols, by July. That just didn't happen. Everything is just growing and it's so hard to keep up. So this year I really want to focus on just meeting people one-on-one and who's building on this protocol, because we are you guys, right? That's really all we are. So that is, I would say, one of my main regrets is that I was pretty internally focused and external stakeholder focused. And what I denied myself a little bit was the fun part, which was talking to entrepreneurs, which is what I thought was going to be the best part of my job. And I think I only did sort of 50% of what I thought I was going to be able to do there. My biggest I think our biggest regrets globally are the same as everybody else's. This nonsense that has been going on around us that has been just overshadowing the stuff that we've been doing. And I think we've done some great things at the foundation, but I think they, in a way, pale in comparison to the stuff that Algorand Inc has done this year. I mean, fundamental stuff, which I won't take from Sean, but what we did that I'm particularly proud of is, of course, number one, getting the senior team. Number two, unleashing all the talent that we had at the foundation it was just a little bit maybe bureaucratic, and roles and accountability were not quite as well defined as they could have been. The grant program was a good example of that. But now we have vertical leads that are responsible for their verticals. We've got like PG rocking on gaming and Shamir rocking on Web3. And we've got Joe now. We've just hired to just like focus on NFTs. And when you give people very clear like empires, that they're responsible for their community and for the feedback, and this is where we're getting this engagement that we were really lacking. And so I'm pretty excited about that. Decipher was just, I got to say, I worried about Decipher until the minute that I got on the plane to go home. Every day, like, are people going to come? Is this going to be so good? It was good yesterday. It's going to be good today with a party, and it was just like so fantastic. So I'm very proud of the team on that, I will say. And, and I'm just very proud of, I don't know, like all of us collectively, how much we seem to care. Like the folks at Algorand Foundation, we're a foundation. A lot of them could be getting very high paid jobs back in Web 2 and in other things, right? But they care about this protocol. They care about this community. And I think the community, even when they're hard on us sometimes, they do that for the most part because they care, right? And so, and I think that is what has sustained us, our boat, through these waters of 2020, of 2022. And I'll just to say one thing about 2023. 2020 was so much about putting the pieces in place, and 2023 is about execution. And so I'm, bullish AF on 2023 and what we can accomplish at the foundation.
Awesome. And then obviously, Sean, Algorand Inc. had a lot of really exciting tech upgrades that happened last year. Maybe you want to run through those, some of the things that you saw last year. Yeah.
Sure. So I think the thing that I'm most proud of, there's a couple of things that I'm happy about is that, regardless of how things were going in 2022, we continue to stay heads down and build and innovate on the blockchain, going to 6,000 TPS, going down to latency that's, 3.5, 3.6 seconds. Actually recently, if the community was watching, some independent people, we had no idea this was happening, really sort of put the blockchain through the test in terms of TPS and performance, and it just ran along like, it just purred the whole time. We got up to almost 10,000 TPS at one point. And again, I always like to say that's finality. That's not, some marketing figure. That's in the block done, not, let's go back in time and recalculate. We had no downtime for our, since inception, another year of that under our belt. We launched state proofs, which is really the first step towards redefining interoperability in the blockchain space. The days of build your castle, put the walls up, and hope people come into the castle, I think are ending rapidly. I think this has got to be a world where, in the environment we're in, where you've got strong technical performers and projects that were built for the long run, to be able to find ways to interoperate with one another. State proofs is an elegant, decentralized way that you can start to do that from any chain to any other chain. I think that was a big one. We have, I think, already live, and this was something mentioned, box storage for smart contracts, which is unlimited storage. You can actually write into your smart contract for whatever app you have. It can automatically request additional storage as it's required, and it's unlimited, which is a huge benefit for people that are building, because they don't have to continue to worry if, heaven forbid, their business grows rapidly, their app shuts down because you lose storage. And there's a number of ways you can actually pick on how you want to have that run within Algorand. So that's an innovation. Just a whole bunch of things. And there's, a couple of other things that we've got going under the hood that I'm excited about headed into this year, that really start to expand that idea of interoperability. I think I would just echo Staci's comments on, the broader market is just, it's so unfortunate. I wish we had done more to contribute to just educating, not our own ecosystem, because I think it's very active and involved, but beyond our ecosystem, to really just help people understand, there's a difference between blockchain and crypto. And within crypto, there's stable coins that are backed. There's algorithmic stable coins. There's floating, essentially stable coins. If you look at Terra Luna, there's a number of different types of assets, and there's apps that do different things. And there's apps that are retail based and retail, that deserve retail protection. And those are very different from some of the other applications we see. Unfortunately, it's all lumped together. It's all called crypto. And that is so uneducated that I think that there's certain projects have earned the right to be able to step in and reset the debate in ways that encourage innovation, encourage people to build, and protect people appropriately from bad actors. And it's those bad actors that I truly, along with Staci, it is infuriating if you've done things the right way to have those folks grab the headlines and really taint a broad industry and some unbelievably good work.
Right. And I'm not the first person to make this observation by any means, but even the FTX debacle is not crypto. That's just plain old fashioned alleged fraud, right? Like really nothing to do with crypto itself, right?
Absolutely.
And then in terms of us behind the scenes, and just to play off a little bit, the protocol building is of course the algo kit, right? The tools, the developer tools. And we, John together with Paul Regal, leading this effort to, find out what is out there in terms of good tools, bringing them together, making them better. And now this year launching Algo Kit, which will be just a game changer for developers. And because, we think our operating philosophy is that we have the best tech in crypto, we have the best protocol out there. So my job is to just systematically eliminate excuses for using it. One of the biggest excuses is that it's harder to develop on it. You can't just import a bunch of Solidity developers over, right? It's like something you've got to learn. And so it is on us to make that as easy as possible and to have the best. Jason Weathersby, the head of developer relations, who, spent many years at Algorand Inc. and is now with the foundation. So he knows the protocol intimately. He knows all of those guys over there. He is just a first-class concierge DevRel experience. And, Sean's nodding as I say this. And then the developer education, I think, has been B-, and that needs to be at an A. We need a zero to hero that's super clear, and they're working on that now. So all of that stuff, just making it easier to come, to use Sean's thing, to come over the moat, into the protocol is really something that we're just going to deliver on this year. And
a drawbridge into the protocol. The moat will make it harder in theory. If you've seen the old moats, they're pretty disgusting. We want to
the drawbridge.
You mentioned
my tiny horse over that drawbridge.
Right, absolutely. Oh, you just answered a question I'll ask you later from the community.
Okay.
But it sounds like when you said Paul Regal and John Woods working together on Algo Kit, there is sort of a back and forth and a relationship, obviously, between the foundation and Inc. and collaboration to kind of make sure this is all going nicely, right? Is that what I'm hearing? There's a lot of
relations are arm's length because they need to be, in terms of especially financial and stuff like that. But Sean and I would say we have we text each other, I would maybe not daily, but it would be weird to me if a week went by and I heard nothing from Sean Ford. That would be weird. And John and Paul, they have their they're a songwriting duo, as a famous songwriting duo, and they are making music together all the time, kind of thing.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I almost took you. I met John, so it wouldn't surprise me if he wrote songs.
And just to put context, just to demystify this thing, if you're at let's say you're at Oracle, you're at a large old sort of software company, and you are a provider of services to another company that's very important. Obviously, there's going to be conversation that goes back and forth, and that's no different. It's just that we need to stay aligned on priorities that Staci's setting and other people are setting around where the protocol's going, as we can provide the technical support in response to that relationship, and I think that's a healthy thing.
Right. And, you had mentioned earlier, this kind of brings me to another community question, Sean. You mentioned the phone, and, last weekend, Cardano had some issues, and obviously Algorand has no downtime in all of this, but there is this kind of, I hear people say this, okay, well, aren't all layer ones fast and green and all that? What makes Algorand special? Solana's fast and green, so is blah, blah, blah. Like, so what in your opinion sets Algorand apart from all of these other layer ones?
Well, I guess there's a few things. I mean, look, you waded into a few different areas there in the description. Some are a little bit more straightforward to just blow up. I mean, if you look at the idea that Solana's fast, I mean, if you take a rock and drop it off a cliff, it's going to start moving pretty fast, but it's probably going to hit something on the way down. And so the analogy there is that, I mean, Solana goes down a lot. And the CEO has publicly said, and I'm going to try to get, it doesn't matter. So the attitude there was, we're super fast, but so what if the tech doesn't really perform? So one, Algorand's highly performant. Traditional businesses that want to start to adopt and use blockchain infrastructure are going to have a much higher bar for making that decision. And people there are used to uptime. Massive uptime, reliability, finality, security. And these are things that people like to throw around, but that are table stakes. These aren't, nice to haves for traditional businesses, large businesses. The Bank of Italy. I mean, if you think the Bank of Italy that announced, its loan guarantee program with Algorand thought, yeah, I hope it works. I hope this stuff, works. No, there was a deep investigation. And we've done that with a number of very large institutions that are used to a high degree of rigor. So my perspective is we were set up for the long term. We, built it to respond to what people improve on the existing system in terms of what expectations are of both institutions and end users. And, built a real business around it with tech that I think is probably, superior just based on what you can measure and what you see in terms of how we report against it.
Yeah, and I think a couple of other things that make us, very unique. I mean, we have very low fees. So there are some other protocols that have very low fees, but if you're going to do something, a low ticket item, you can't spend a lot in gas fees. And we've seen what's happened with some of the NFT and Ethereum before the transition. And, that, we're not absolutely unique in that, but it's very important. In our green footprint, most proof of stake protocols don't have a very large footprint. We're very, as a community and Algorand, very pleased about the Ethereum changeover because that's good for the environment. And they round of applause to them for pulling that off flawlessly. I mean, really impressive. But there's a couple of other things that get maybe a tiny bit weedy that are unique to us. And one is this idea of security, which Sean touched on. But, Silvio is known in cryptography for a number of different things. He didn't put money attached to it, right? But one of them is this thing called verifiable random functions, which is the basis on which the Algorand protocol works. And the idea there is that you're running like a little kind of slot machine, every algo. And when you win, like 3 pineapples come up, say, you win the right to, participate in the appending of the next block. Nobody knows, including you. It's random whether you won or not. So it is definitionally secure because other proof of stake protocols, they're not secure by nature. It's like, who should we attack? How about that guy over there with the big stake? Like that might be a good vector of attack. And that is just not the case. We are pure proof of stake protocol, and that is unique to us. And the other thing, which Sean mentioned in his previous intervention, is this settlement finality, right? It is based on Byzantine agreement, which is that most, like including Ethereum and Bitcoin and others, the chain can fork momentarily, and then the one without the most work or kind of falls off, and there's this little bit of a length kind of race, and then one falls off and one wins. We are absolutely final at the end of those 3.9 seconds, and we are also unique in that. And so if you want these things, you want the reliability of no downtime, and you want the low fees, and you want the absolute security, and you want this absolute final settlement. Like, there's only one place to get that, folks. And people in the real world, they care about that. Not that we're not in the real world, but when the rubber hits the road and there's lots of money on the line, those are the kinds of things that people care about.
Yeah, I mean, and you mentioned the Bank of Italy, Sean, but like if I'm standing outside of a concert and I can't get my ticket up, that's also going to be really annoying, right? So like there's, so it's like
Right.
it goes all the way through. So that never been down is a big deal. All right, so I mean we're getting close to time, so I want to make sure that I get a couple more of these community questions in.
All the hard
Um,
ones to Sean and all
okay.
the nice ones
Uh,
to me, please.
Oh,
Sure.
okay. So, well, then
Deal.
I'll ask you definitely what your favorite NFT project is, Staci.
So
But
I
and so
I hate
Sean,
those questions, Scoop.
what
You
can
know
I
I
think?
hate those.
What terrible question can I ask Sean? No, I'm just kidding. How about this? You mentioned it. You mentioned it earlier. I had Sean on the show not so long ago. We talked about his passion for pickleball and soccer and things like that. Do you have an outdoor activity, Staci, that you enjoy? Are you an avid cyclist? I hear a lot about this. This is the joke you stole from me earlier, by the way.
Right,
So I
right,
get
right.
so just letting you know.
Nicely done by
But
Staci, by the way.
I know she does. Look,
Good
I
job.
knew. I knew she would do that. I knew she would do that. That's why I was going to lead with it. But I was like, I was a little. I knew it. It doesn't matter. But okay, but there is a serious question from the community about this,
Yeah.
and the question is, there's been a lot of heat around past deals made during the bull run.
Yeah.
Are there plans to maybe back out or renegotiate these deals?
Yeah. So, first of all, we are doing things, even if we're not telling you about them, and sometimes whether Sean is negotiating with FIFA, we're negotiating with some of the partnerships that we're working with or we worked with before. You, the community, not you, Cooper, exactly, but you, the community, are not privy to all of the discussions that are going on. And because, for many reasons, one of which is confidentiality, right? I mean, Algorand Inc. had confidentiality agreements with FIFA. You wanted to know what was going on earlier, it was not possible. It also is not always good for negotiations because you're having very delicate conversations where you are trying to get to a good place, and broadcasting everything you do on a daily basis is not conducive to a good outcome in those discussions. So I just do want to say that, But yeah, we had a good plan, which was to differentiate ourselves as the green blockchain. Kicked off with Earth Day that we did. We took over Times Square, and we wanted to back that up with sailing, which is environmentally friendly, biking, which also had this sort of impact because we were matching the funding that they were giving to their causes, right? So we thought, okay, if we back these guys, and they're very, very credible in the U.S. at least, and getting more global. I had to meet with this board a couple of different times. They were very, they got some sponsorship from a bank once, and their community tore them apart, and so they understood that they were giving us a good, like a seal of approval if they were okay with us, and we were definitely green. And then we had the Envision Racing, right, which is electric. So it was like modes of transportation were green, and we had a decent coin price. I think it's interesting. I don't know, because my perception, I'm so in the community now. I mean the broader community, but a year ago, it was very much more like crypto is Bitcoin, and Bitcoin is not green, and therefore crypto is not green. And we had to say that there's a difference between us and Bitcoin. And I think, although I'm not 100% sure, I think it's more broadly understood by, call it like the NPR crowd. Like there might be like this Bitcoin thing might not be so green, but these other ones are. And I think we had a good role to play in that. But do I think it's existential now to differentiate ourselves from Bitcoin the way that I did a year ago? Not quite as much. So that's the first thing. And the second thing is, yeah, we've looked at all of these partnerships. It's a negotiation process. There are things that we still think are a good idea at a price point, not a good idea at the price point we have now. How can we dial some back, get the good parts out of them, continue with the parts that we think will have the most impact, postpone some things that we had. Like we had a really interesting impact partnership, a really interesting marketing kind of. Sean and I both had a couple of really interesting sports marketing things that we were talking about just, just putting off to just make sure we are on solid ground in terms of the things that we talked about before, right? Our long-term sustainability and et cetera, et cetera. So all of those things are, they're on the table, like in a big way, and not driven by like my Twitter feed. We're looking, we understand what's going on, right? We understand what we should be doing and not. And then, of course, just not having a CMO and not having a very, very coherent approach, a coherent brand, a coherent approach, like we were a little bit, I'll call it this, like a space, I'm showing my age, which is why I don't like to do this, like a space invader strategy. We were shooting at stuff as it came near us. I will tell you that, we had this bike opportunity. We had the Sail GP opportunity. We had the Envision. We liked these partnerships, but it wasn't, it wasn't baked into something bigger than ourselves. It was super, super strategic. So that's the big difference, of course, this year as well. I also play tennis, by the way. So,
thank you. That was my follow-up.
Biking is not even I do these bike rides for charity. I've done 2 with Climate Ride and a couple of like 1 day 100 milers or whatever for charity. But tennis is my sport.
A 1 day 100 miler means that you do enjoy riding a bike.
Yeah, it was like an MS ride, and I raised a bunch of money for it. And
is it only an hour?
I almost got MS for
100 miles per hour.
Oh yeah, I know. I did that math in my head. I was like, wow,
that's a lot. That's super fast.
Stacy's on Climate Ride on her electric.
Okay, I used an e-bike. All right, fine.
All right. You mentioned the CMO, and I wanted to say she said something actually in her Twitter space that I thought was really cool. And somebody asked her about, some of these partnerships like Disney, Starbucks, and all of that. And she kind of gave credit to Polygon about, landing these deals. But she pointed out, she's like, a lot of the stuff that is being built by these Web2 companies or these other these companies like trying to enter Web3 are actually, Web3 is not even necessary for those partnerships, right? It's just kind of trying to ride the hype. I'm wondering if you guys could give me your opinion on some things that you think that blockchain and, Web3, however you want to look at it, some of the things that it actually solves and the things that maybe Algorand's pursuing to help make things better, in those respective fields.
I'll just do one easy one. If you look at the creator, so as with any business that's worth having, it takes time to build. And then I'm going to say that because as with these other opportunities that we spend our time on, they take time to build. It's not like you have Algorand blockchain, all of a sudden there's a magic business that's, lighting it up in a day. If it's got, again, real people and a real plan, real strategy, etc. So the place I would pick, and one of the easy ones is if you look at just the creator economy, if you look at the music economy, it is an absolute intermediary run business between artists, fans. There's centralized authorities. There's an inequitable distribution of royalty to the actual people who create the art. I'll use art, probably could be music, could be whatever it is. And I think blockchain at its core is the fundamental catalyst for disrupting old business models, rewriting the story that put the power back in the hands of every person and giving every person a chance to participate in this new type of economy versus having there be barriers to that participation in the form of either access or bank fees or whatever it is. So my perspective is ultimately nirvana. You look at industries that are highly concentrated with centralized authorities. It doesn't mean you don't work with these authorities. So I don't want to go down that path. But at the end of the day, if you look at the music economy and what we think we're doing with Napster, that's going to be an interesting ride over the next couple of years to see how it becomes the thing it wanted to be when it first emerged, 20 years ago. And that is a way to rethink the industry's economics and bring fans and artists closer together while, giving those artists abilities to earn given the work they put into whatever they've created. I'm excited about that.
Cool. Smells like teen spirit, John.
I have a Napster mug, by the way.
Well, we're talking to Napster later, so that's exciting. Right. I like it. And then, how about you, Stacy? What are you thinking about that?
Well, there's so many applications for this technology, and the way that I kind of think about the taxonomy of it is, of course, Sean's, the creators can take some of the value that they create and always be able to capture it down the line. I think is really, and NAP's just going to be a really, really interesting play here for us. Any database where you don't trust somebody to use your data properly, and you don't trust somebody else who's entered the data to not mess around with that data, is a very good. And so, for us, Planet Watch is a great idea of that. The sensors, one mayor can't get in a spitting contest with another mayor and start making their data look a little bit better, right? Like it's just needs to be on a blockchain. Payments, I say this all the time, that, micropayments, remittances, that kind of stuff, that it would travel through the correspondent banking system to get, and where somebody's taking 6% off the top, right, to even get. And these are small payments, that this could be done very cheaply and easily. And we have, of course, Hasab Pay in Afghanistan. We were just in the GBBC annual report talking about these guys really making a difference for, payments that are just like shut off in Afghanistan. They're making it happen. The identity, the idea that you could have control, self-sovereign identity, and that you could attach economic activity to your identity to show that you are a good credit or other thing. And, we have, of course, Hasab Pay, these guys in Zimbabwe. They're just unbelievable guys from MIT, Zimbabwean guys, and they're just like killing it with this Flex ID. All of this stuff is just, it makes you want to just get up in the morning. And of course, like our creators as well, I'm super excited about DeFi into real world assets. The idea that you could use a DeFi protocol where the money could start investing in real world assets. I think like this is going to be a huge breaching of the chasm between the real world and crypto, which is going to be just huge going forward. We of course have like Lofty AI, which is letting, people have income streams from rental income, which were just always reserved for the rich. And it's not just that the little guy gets to participate now. Finally, it's that the market becomes more liquid when the little guy is participating in it. It's like all this stuff, the value of the underlying value proposition of crypto and blockchain is so fundamental that it doesn't really matter, about the SBFs and his like. It's just about getting through this FUD and washing this nonsense out so that we can really start delivering on the stuff that we're here for,
Right. Right. And, and supply chain is another thing. I saw recently Algorand has partnered up maybe with something called Dust Identity. I don't know a lot about that, but we don't need to dive into that. But is that something, or is that just a logo on a
Dust
website?
Identity is a supply chain provider where they use unique patterns of diamond dust, like a fingerprint, to be able to sprinkle microscopically, scan, register, and therefore have a unique identifier for any part of the supply chain, so it's uncorruptible. They've been a long time, collaborator back to the early days. Great team, cool. Really smart.
Awesome. All right, last question,
because Sean, what's your favorite NFT project?
Yeah.
Favorite NFT project? Oh, geez, Louise. Well, I mean, look, I still like the, we've got the Women's World Cup coming up with FIFA, and I'm excited about those NFTs and really promoting women in sports. And I think it's going to be a great event. So I'm just going to stick with that.
Awesome. And awesome. How about you, Staci?
Well, I like the tiny horse this month, but I'm gonna make sure this is part of I really want to make sure that I get to meet all of these creators, and I'm otherwise taking the fifth.
Okay, and then this is the last question, Staci, because I've had a couple people want me to ask you this. Do you ever have the opportunity to speak about Algorand during your time on the advisory council of the UN Capital Development Fund, or as a member of the European Parliament Science and Technology Committee?
100%. So on the European Advisory Committee, I talk about the last year's focus was on AI. And so I talk about the intersection between blockchain and AI, and that's pretty interesting. And then we're doing a lot of, to say we're doing a lot of work with the UN is to overstate it, but let's just say we're having a lot of conversations with the UN, be it the World Food Program or the advisory committee of the piece that I sit on, a Capital Development Fund. And I don't shill Algorand so much, but I talk about the power of blockchain and how if they are interested in a digital approach to poverty, which I think is very important, a digital approach to financial inclusion, that blockchain is the right way to go. And of course, we're the best blockchain. They know that I'm from Algorand, but when I do talk on those committees, I try not to make it about Algorand, but about the power of this technology. And then, if you want to do a pilot with us, then, of course, we're happy to do that with you.
Right. Well, this was a quick 50 minutes for me. I know there's a lot of things that we didn't talk about, and you guys touched on it, but all the real world sort of programs, the disaster relief, everything that was announced at Decipher, maybe people don't talk about it so much, but those things are exciting and actually, utilizing blockchain for good. And I'm excited. And I think as people start to learn, they're coming around, right? You got the CMO, and then, so there's, we got this exciting new woman coming in to kind of call the shots over there. So thank you so much for taking the time to come on here. And is there anything else you'd like to say before we sign off?
No, just I really appreciate you. You've been a great member of this community, and you've always, always put your hand up for us, whether you're doing this community thing or whether you're offering to MC an event that we have. And I just, in closing, I just wanted to say that I forgive you for the Binance leak, and it's all good between us now.
Okay. Oh shit! See, look, I got so excited I lost my earbud. How about you? How about you, Sean?
No, I appreciate the time, Coop. It's always great to connect. I love your shirt. Every time. Can't wait to see it on you again the next time we meet.
Oh, no, by the way, he said I wore this the last time. You can go check. You can go look back, because I actually got this shirt from Shamir. He didn't give it to me, but I asked him where he got his shirt, and then I went and bought it.
He was asking. He actually said to me, he goes, Sean, have you seen I lost a shirt at Decipher. And after that amazing... No. So mystery solved. Looks like you got Shamir's shirt.
Yeah, after that amazing Decipher party, I snuck into his room.
Didn't have a shirt.
I knew he'd be passed out. I knew Shamir would be passed out.
No shirt for a day because of you. All right. Amazing. Nice to see you, Coop.
Okay, bye, Jen. Thank you so much.
Bye.
All right, bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye now.